please remember that when things get rough, you can always leave over there and come here to Sankofa Books and sit down and relax. Because this is the liberation space and the liberation zone.
Look at this picture.
Yeah. Elvis Presley.
One, two, one.
Who knew it not and died searching for this truth. My history shrouded in a veil of mist to hide its gist. I weep for you, Father, and vow that I will pass on that truth that eluded you to my children and to their children's children, so that no longer will they die unfulfilled. Okay. That I will pass on that truth that eluded you to my children and to their children's children, so that no longer will they die unfulfilled, being black and beautiful and knowing it not.
My name is Angela, and I'm going to perform a piece entitled Friends. In this galaxy, we all have friends and friends and friends. They come to us for a lifetime, season or reason. What is yours to mine? What is your reason for being here at this time? Why do you choose this speckle of time to come through? History shouldn't wonder. Show us now. Take action. Are you wondering for which front? I mean, hell, take your pick. Baby girls on the corner getting sick. Some of the mothers of our nation, mentally I lose. Progress they refuse. Their babies they diffuse on drugs, sugar, and Ritalin. Made a proclamation for self-damnation because all they ever wanted was for their daddies to love them. And their man to simply tell them to get their thing together. But together he couldn't ever see them being, for she fell off his pedestal of womanhood a long time ago. Ladies, don't be confused. Men do have them, and we should too. But he, so full of the true reality that he takes another hit, so heavily ruled by the sun and not enough moon, he can't create the great escape, can't birth in his mind how to get out of this craze. He stumbles feeling this is the end of his days, yet moon woman who was born to see put on a veil just to prevent the mission to be drowning in comfortable misery. The birth control pills of our black nation, ingredients, lack of vision, lack of hope, self-hate, opposite sex perpetrates, lack of love, lack of self-knowledge, oppressor envy, no real understanding of God, not knowing that God is within thee, and this we are doomed. But to me, the answer is quite simple. I mean, you get your pencil and your drawing pad. We are oppressed from every facet of life, systematically, educationally, spiritually, religiously, environmentally, economically, politically, sexually, psychologically, nutritionally, socially, and whatever other something lead you can think of. I mean, we must deprogram our brains and recover from slavery. Yes, slavery. Post-traumatic slavery syndrome, that issue we somehow managed to skip. Yet our families suffer from it today. Peace, light, and love to the black family. Which aspect can you help penetrate to make our days safer and greater and higher? I mean, there's so many. Take your pick. Can you participate in our struggle and struggle to free our minds and mind the tide of white supremacy that constantly sweeps and lower our pride, and then take pride in being exactly who you are, realizing our Africanness is all the equality and opportunity that we need, and read to enhance our capabilities of analysis into this crisis, or perhaps snap photos so our descendants will know that hell yes we existed, and although Tiger didn't know he was black, the picture clearly says so. And no doubt they'll somehow try to bleach out Venus and Serena by the year 3733 and claim that Eminem was the originator of hip-hop. And by then, Black Wall Street, the Black Panther Party, and Marcus Garvey will all be myths. They will say that the black family was never in exist. They'll say we came from Mars, causing destruction on Earth, and eventually killed themselves off. But of course, that would be a mere legend. A story to explain how white folks can get so evil at times. They will call us the soul polluters, for it will be their story to tell. Hell, we gave up writing for the pipe and pictures for the stereo video. Doomed, are we? Please take your pick. I mean, yeah, I know we are flying all melanated to the sky, and that we can plausibly never fail, but let's be proactive over reactive, reclaim my art for our race, and race ourselves for our magnificence. Old drudgery days pass, new days arise. All I want to do is love you, so let's. In this galaxy, we all have friends, and friends and friends. They come to us for a lifetime, season, or reason. What is mine to yours? What is my reason for being? Why did I choose this speckle of time to come through? History won't have to wonder, for the cycle is turning. I'm here for us, the black family. I am the new moon. Asar said Heru family. Our rebirth is calling. Step into the new sun. Ashe.
How are you? Great. I am the teacher and director-to-be of the Higher Achievement Program over at Harriet Tubman Elementary. And when I found out about this event, I got together some of our poets and some of our kids here who are going to actually do some essays and some poems about exceptional male role models in their life. So please give them a warm reception.
Good evening, my name is Ashley Monet King. I'm from High Achievement Program, and it's mainly about learning and fun. The title of my poem is Exceptional Men. My grandfather is exceptional to me because he took good care of me. He made sure I have food. He made sure I have food and clothes. He is also exceptional to me because he raised me up till I was old enough to take care of myself. He looks quite young. He has a bald. He's dark skinned. He smells like cologne all the time, and he likes to keep his bald shiny. He is one exceptional man for me because he makes sure nobody messes with me or harms me. He takes me to church and goes out to eat and travel the world. I would like to thank him because he didn't have to do this for me. If he didn't, nobody else would have did it except for my mother. If I had to give a shout out, I would have did it for him. When he gets real old, I'm going to do my best of taking good care of him, like feeding him, wash his clothes, and take him places wherever he can.
My name is Sophia West, and the title of my essay is An Ideal Male Role Model to Me. When I think of the phrase ideal male role model, I can't get just one name to appear in my head. Instead, the names of all 6 of my brothers come to mind. Although we are not the perfect family and we have our own little arguments and disagreements, I find myself looking up to my older brothers, following their examples, and seeking advice from them at times. With the knowledge I gather from my older brothers, I have the opportunity to pass it down to my little brother, so I can be a positive example for him to follow. I feel that all of my brothers are inspirational and perfect examples for me to follow, because they have all achieved something great and know something I don't. When I'm with them, I'm always learning new things about them and myself. At hard times, I've seen them struggle, work hard, and reach their goals. I've learned never to give up, to keep hope, and not to let anything stop me, just from living with these amazing people, from hearing them talk and following in their footsteps. I know my life wouldn't be the same without them. I know I wouldn't be the person I am today, because these 6 men are the people that have helped to mold me and form my mind and soul. With all of the knowledge, advice, and examples I have gathered from my brothers, I have begun to build my future, trying to choose the best things for me, trying to stay away from the things my brothers tell me to, and doing the best things I can for myself. I feel that I am very fortunate to have such amazing men as brothers. I'm fortunate that they have given me advice so I can have it easier, whereas they had to learn it the hard way. If they didn't have as many people give them such great advice as they have given me. I feel that when you want to choose a role model, male or female, you have to find someone you can look up to. A role model should be someone whose example you can follow if it's appropriate for you, someone you can trust, and most of all, someone who you admire for their unique self, not because they are revered by society. This is how I feel about my brothers, and this is why they're my ideal male role models.
Good evening. My name is Ihoma Mez Eranini, and I'm from Higher Achievement Program. Today I'll read a short poem entitled Male Model. I'm in a fashion show, a show for you and me. I have models of 49 and 53. They're not sick, but they're gone. They're not weak, but they're strong. Robert Frost was also lost, and miles before he slept. When Daddy comes, I might cry, but it's been years before I've wept. It's been years before I've wept.
I am from the High Achievement Program. I'll be assigning to you exceptional men. An exceptional man to me is hardworking, keeps moving to his goal, helping people, and does not like violence. Exceptional man is brave, does what is right, believes in voice, freedom, justice, and solidarity, and believes in all men are created equal. My dad is an exceptional man. He goes to provide food and shelter, cares for his family, helps my mom, and helps me on my homework. That is what exceptional men are like.
Just 2 more.
An exceptional man.
Introduce yourself first.
My name is Patricia Liverpool, and I have a poem called An Exceptional Man. Martin Luther King was an exceptional man. He did all he can to free black people from slavery. He had a precious dream that one day black people would be free and all white men would stop slaving them. Martin did all he could to set us free. Martin Luther King.
Very good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jasmine Cook, and my first poem I'm going to read is called Exceptional Man. Dear Grandfather, To me, you are an exceptional man. You show kindness and generosity to your family and friends. In my eyes, you are a true hero because you provide a roof over my head, clothes on my back, and food in my mouth. You are very tall and handsome. You are very tall and handsome, and you smell like the great outdoors. Your hair is short and very rough. I like when you always make jokes at sad times. You are exceptional. Exceptional. Sincerely, your granddaughter, Jasmine. My second poem is also titled Exceptional Man, and it is an acrostic. Grandfather. G. G is for great. R. R is for respectful. A is for aware. N is for nice. D is for determined. F is for flawless. A is for awesome. T is for tasteful. H is for honest. E is for enthusiastic. R is for redeemer. You are an all-American exceptional man.
Do we have time for two more, or?
Why not? Yeah.
Okay, they're real short. The last two guys, come on up. Sinjin and Ariel Martinez.
Hello, my name is Sinjin. Exceptional man. Her name was an exceptional man because he is an Olympic gold medalist and a wrestler. He is also a good role model because he never gives up on getting each year's gold medals and getting the undisputed title. He is bald, he is swift, he hates being bald. You can see him on UBM 8 o'clock p.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. When the fans blow it out, he doesn't care. He wants to show the fans he is a winner and an exceptional man. Thank you.
And our last poet. And could you please tell the audience what kind of poem you wrote?
The poems I chose to write is a Sing Queen and an acrostic poem.
Okay, go ahead, Aria.
My Sing Queen is called Dad. Dad, nice, strong, handsome, loving and caring. My dad is Superman, hero. And my acrostic. A, always ready to try something new. L, loving and caring father. B, beats me as Super GT. E, everlasting love. R, ready to relax. T, turntable master. O, on his best behavior. Alberto.
I hope you enjoyed the Higher Achievement Program Scholars. And we're always looking for volunteers. We're right at the Harriet Tubman Elementary School, so please see me or leave your address and number and email with Torma or Sharikana, and I will get back to you because we'd love to have some volunteers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa. And can we have another round of applause for all the young ladies? On behalf of Sankofa, My Fidu Films, and basically everyone, the community, we'd like to welcome all of you and thank you all for coming out here this evening. As you can tell, we're having some sound problems. So one of the things that I want to ask you, some sound challenges. How well can you all hear in the back? Can you all hear? 1, 2, okay. And we'll see if we can go through with this. And I apologize to the poets for the sound interruptions that was coming through. We are here this evening and we welcome an exceptional black man himself to the Washington, D.C. area. I would not be doing the introduction for this Baba, and someone else would do that. But what I want to address very briefly is the book, A Healing Call, Tough Notes, A Healing Call for Creating Exceptional Black Men. When the book first arrived, probably about 2 weeks ago, I picked it up, I read the first word, and I couldn't stop reading it until I completed it. I found that it was inspiring, and it is a book that is definitely, one that represents it's a book that everyone here should get a copy of. Get a copy for your brothers, for your sisters, for anyone who is interested in working with the youth and creating these men. That's basically what it is I want to say. We have a flyer informational sheet that we've sent out, and we're asking if you can just sign your name, address, email information at the base of it, and and then tear that off and give it back to us, so that we are able to stay in contact with you all and let you all know about what it is we are doing.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. My name is Allende Mazimoyo. I'm a summer intern here at Madubuti Films and Sankofa Video. I'm very pleased and honored to have been asked to introduce Baba Haki Madhubuti this evening. I am especially honored because I'm from Chicago. I lived in Chicago for around 5 or 6 years in my late childhood. Excuse me. I attended the Institute of Positive Education, which Baba Haki co-founded along with his wife a long time ago, before I ever came on the scene. My parents were very active in the community there, and so I'm quite acquainted with and have been greatly influenced by his institution building and organizing efforts there in the Chicago area. In addition to co-founding the Institute of Positive Education there, he founded the Third World Press Publishing Company, which has produced many informative and significant books for African people. He has written many books of poetry and prose, of which one is Black Men, Obsolete, Single, Dangerous. He was instrumental in the Black Arts Movement long before I was born. And he's just done a lot for African people here, and I'm very glad to have been asked to introduce him. I ask that you all open your hearts, your ears, your spirits, listen to what it is he has to say, buy a copy of the book, and give your energy so that you can get some back this evening. And without any further delay, Baba Haki Madhubuti.
Hotel. Really happy to be here. To see so many old friends, and it's always good to come home. You know, not only to be here at Sankofa and to be among you this evening, but just to be in the proximity of Howard. You know, we all have our opinions about Howard, but I worked there for 80 years. And what I did essentially was commute every week for 8 years between Chicago and D.C. But before I even get into that conversation, I want to thank Sharif and Haley and staff and faculty here at Sankofa for allowing me to come and spend some time with you. I really appreciate it, and I really don't take it for granted that what you've done here is great work, it's significant work, and it's liberating work. And I think that we all need to give the brothers and sisters here a big hand. Because they are functioning in the tradition of Paul Robeson, John Henry Clark, Chancellor Williams, and Queen Mother Moore. You know, one can kind of go just read the list. And this is not only significant work, it's very difficult work. And often, more often than not, we don't receive what is really very important to us, and I just thank you. Obviously, the financial support is critical in terms of keeping our institutions going, but you'd be surprised how much thank you means to us. Just to say, hey, man, you're doing a damn good job, you know? Especially, you know, working with these children. And so, it's important for me to be here, and I'm very happy that you all came out tonight. I bring you greetings from Chicago, from my family, from my wife, Dr. Safisha Madubuti, from our children,
Laini Nzinga, who's a producer for Viacom. BET.com. I bring greetings from our middle boy, Bomani Garvey, who's a civil engineer in Raleigh-Durham. And I bring greetings from my youngest boy, Akili Malcolm, who just graduated from Northwestern 3 weeks ago. He's a computer scientist. I bring greetings from Mariama, who is my eldest daughter. Just got back from a major fellowship in China, and she now works in New Haven. And I bring greetings from Shabaka, my eldest boy, who is living and working in Chicago. Bring greetings from the institution I've been involved in, most certainly the Institute of Public Education. We have 2 schools, New Concept School and the Betty Shabazz International Charter School. And we service children between the ages 2.5 to the 8th grade. And these institutions, well, most certainly New Concept School, which Sister Kabibi stands back there, has been involved. Where's she at? Where's Kabibi at? Oh, okay, there she has been involved with. Her children came through our school just as this young brother here. And we started New Concept and Institute of Public Education back in, 69, 70. And it's really been a struggle, but we're there. We own a half a block in Chicago. And that came about as a result of our serious struggle, just like right here at Sankofa. Nobody gave us anything. And of course I bring greetings from Third World Press, which was founded in 1967 in my basement apartment on the south side of Chicago with $400 on a mimeograph machine. My apartment's about the size of this table that I lived in with other animals, you know, in the basement. So it's been a long journey, and it's been a journey I wouldn't trade for anything. And it's a journey that has been thrusted upon me as well as Haley Graham and Sharik and other brothers and sisters in the struggle. And the joy, very few people understand the joy, even less understand the pain and the frustration of working with black people. 24 hours a day, 24/7. And so I'm very happy to be here. And I want to talk a little bit about tough notes. And I'll take some questions after we finish up. And I can say that my tenure at Howard University was pretty good. I mean, I started at Howard in 1970 after the publication of Don't Cry Scream, which was my 3rd book of poetry. And Dr. Andrew Billingsley was the provost and vice president of academic affairs at that time. And he flew me in here to see if I would come and join this new Institute for the Arts and Humanities that the great cultural scientist Stephen Henderson was heading up at that time. And he brought the great fiction writer John Oliver Killens. How you doing? How you doing? John Oliver Killens in to be the fiction writer in residence. And they asked me would I be the poet in residence. Now I had just left Ithaca, New York, up at Cornell. I had moved all my books, everything up to Cornell. And it just got so cold up there and just so white. I decided not to stay at Cornell. So I moved everything back to Chicago. And so when Dr. Billingsley asked me to come to, work on the faculty here at Howard, I said I would love to do that. I really would. Because I used to lie about going to Howard. That's right. I used to sell magazines. I used to sell subscriptions to magazines. And I would go from door to door, knocking on doors and just lying about working my way through Howard University. Never been to D.C. But I had read Rayford Logan, I had read Sterling A. Brown, I had read Alain Locke, and I was hip to some of the great minds that come through this university. And well, anyway, when he asked me to come, I said yes, of course, but I would like to commute. And it's like he went into a daze. It's almost like he fainted. All right. And then once he recovered, I said, well, look, this is not unusual. This is 1970, okay? I said, it's not really unusual, Dr. Billingsley. I asked him, have you read Future Shock by Alvin Toffler? And, what Toffler's, putting forth is that you're going to have this commuter culture. and that men and women would work in one city and live in another. I think I want to join that culture. And he said, let me think about it. So I began to walk out and just going to walk around the campus that I said I've been going to and been lying about. And about 10, 15 minutes, he walked up to me and said, well, we can work it out. We'll give you a 3-year contract, and we'll give you a stipend to travel, and then, you know, pay you a decent salary. And that did happen. 3 years turned into 8 years. And after 8 years, I just got tired of getting on those planes every week, you know, traveling. Brian Gilmore, how you doing, son? It's good to see you. How's your family? All right. Good. That's good to hear that. So I'm here after what? A long journey. I guess it's 24th or 25th book. And what we're trying to do, I didn't bring ingredients from the institution I've been involved in for the last 20-some odd years, which is Chicago State University. I'll be 20 years in September. And I was named Distinguished University Professor at Chicago State University in January of this year, which is the first in the history of the university. So I was really honored as a result of that. But one other thing about Chicago State, I founded the Gwendolyn Brooks Center about 12, 13 years ago, and we host the only annual Black Writers Conference in the country every October, the last weekend in October. And this year, we're going to add to that the Chicago Independent Book Festival, as well as the Black Writers Retreat. Oh, that's going to be a part of that 4 or 5 days. So I gave you a card. This is my first book tour. I've been doing this stuff a long time. This is the first time I've been on a book tour. Can you believe that? We never had any money. All right. It's not like we have a lot of money now. You know, we just got credit cards that are pretty decent. And so the people say, people read the book, they say it's a halfway decent book, and that we probably need to get out here and really talk about it. Black Men sold about 1.5 million, about 1.1 copies. But the reason, and the reason that it sold well is because black women bought it. I'm very serious. The women bought the book and sent them to brothers in prison. And what happened, the brothers in prison began to, rather than crack rocks, they cracked the book. Okay? And I began to get all these letters from men and some women, but mainly men in prison. And as a result of that, I began to take notes. And also what was happening was that these same brothers and others, they started calling Third World Press, wanted to talk to Haki Madhubuti. And so I would take some of the calls until I got, I guess, that first phone bill, and we had to stop that. All right? But the point is that what happened, I began to take these notes and began to write tough notes. But generally what I do when I'm starting to talk about tough notes is to read the poem in the beginning of the book, A Poet's Call. It has always been easy to get to my heart. There's no other way of stating it. The best poets are lovers, are receptacles for pain, joy, injustice, and the innocent smiles of children. We trust too early and easily. We read potential in the countless faces of evil. We carry many, many wounds. We are often crippled, yet some heal quickly, only to open their hearts to stories our children can see through. The right words can send us on unlimited journeys. The hurt in children's eyes release fury in our souls and fists. Black girls' mistreated hair brings tears. I do not wish it to always be this way. To care too much can damage one's spirit, yet the secret to longevity of significant poets is we never give up on love, poetry, and the smiles of the young. Okay. Can I get an amen on that? Sister Lainey Natako over here, she's one of the finest poets in the country. Lainey, why don't you just hold your hand up like that? Let everybody see you. She's tough enough. These essays are for non-readers, slow readers, and those who read 1,000 words a minute. They're in the form of essays, notes, and one-page ideas. Some of the subjects like anti-rape, fathering, children, black women, reading, and history I've visited before in my other works. The idea for tough notes came to me after spending over 39 years of very active community work and from my involvement in the building of independent black institutions and schools. After the publication of Black Men Obviously Single Danger, I received, many, many letters. brothers seeking guidance, many young black men, many without caring or existing fathers, seeking guidance and a kind word. So this work is for them and for other young men and women systematically locked out of the nation's wealth, benefits, and opportunities. Of course, tough notes can be read by anyone of any culture. Most certainly women and older men are encouraged to read it. However, my thoughts on most days are about young people, especially young black and brown men, teenagers and boys who populate the corners and as discussed in the thousands of paragraphs printed in newspapers, magazines, books, and dissertations, claiming authority about their young lives. My love for young people has a history, my own and that of black struggle in America. My love for young people has guided my writing, my work, and life over the last 39 years. At the confirming age of 59, I'm now 60 years old. You know, time passes, you know. I feel more certain than ever that this can be a better world if all cultures were more child and youth-centered. The main ingredient that is missing in their lives and the lives of many of the young people, troubled and those doing quote-unquote well, in the West is deep love, secure living and learning environments, progressive education, and an equal quote-unquote chance to achieve and shine. That's what's missing. You see what I'm saying? And really, that's really our responsibility. It's not the state's responsibility, it is our responsibility. Because our children's education starts really before birth. It starts in the mother and the father, and the mom and the baba, all right? And when the child comes out of the mother's womb, out of the mother's body, most certainly he or she should come into a cultural community. In a community that is not ambiguous about who they are, all right? I can walk into your home and tell you exactly where you at. You see, I can walk into your home and just define you. You see, because culture is so important. You see, it's not just what you wear. It's not how you talk. It's not how bad you rap, all right? It's essentially your whole surroundings, who you around every day, all right? It's who you make love to each night, all right? All that defines you. It defines our culture. So I can walk into your home. So as soon as I get to your home, first thing I'm looking, is it clean? Is it clean on the outside or is it clean on the inside, all right? And as soon as I walk in, I'm looking at what's on the walls. You know, who are the images on the wall? Do they represent us as a people, all right? I look at your videos. I'm saying, what videos do you have there, all right? And I'm saying, are these the videos that are essentially progressive and about development in terms of our community? And then I look at your music. What kind of music are you listening to, all right, in terms of our community? Look at the magazines that you may look. But the most important thing, you walk into the children's room. What's on their walls? Darth Vader, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck. And you wonder why we're confused. We got to start very early with our children. You see, no child is an accident. Understand that. And so, increasingly, what is missing in the young lives, in their young lives, is an informed introduction to the arts. This is critical. That's why film is so important. You know, books are critical and important, but you know, the major art form in the black community, other than music, is film. This is why Sankofa is so important. What Heli Garima and Sharik are doing is critical in terms of our development. Most young people have not been properly introduced to the developmental properties of art. When you look at the best schools in the land and the most nurturing homes and communities in the nation, the use of art instruction in all of its manifestations is clearly central to the education and enjoyment of its young. Art can heal, develop, inform, shape unknown possibilities, and help confirm one's worth in a difficult world. Art allows caring teachers and parents a way to nurture and or discover those inborn or undeveloped talents that most children have in music, dance, writing, acting, painting, photography, etc. Art is the window into understanding culture, and our culture defines us. To that end, or as a poet, you know, I slip in a couple of poems. What I tried to do was to separate this book into 5 seconds. 1, empowering the self. 2, finding the exceptional you. 3, women. 4, progressive nurturing the saving grace. And 5, liberation. Well, let's start at the beginning. And the first essay in the book is, who am I? Now, you ask the average brother or sister to define him or herself, say, who are you? And the first thing they say, well, I'm Willie, I'm Bobo, all right? Okay, now, Bobo, who are you? It's a strange question. It's not the kind of question they receive all the time. So therefore, the answers do not come. Now, if you get a brother or sister who's halfway enlightened, then they start defining themselves in relationship to popular culture, all right? And then those who can even go a little bit further in terms of popular culture might get a little bit to what we call national culture before they start scratching their head and rubbing their stomachs and tap dancing at the same time. The answer or the question is a very important question because essentially it begins to place us in a historical context. And therefore we must have a historical understanding, a political understanding, an economic understanding of not only who we are today, but where we've been in the past and where we will go tomorrow. Because these definitions essentially place us in struggle. All right? Blackness, or one's Africanness, when interpreted by persons without a serious cultural education, is generally limited to one's personal struggles for day-to-day survival. And this tends to be the anti of what one is struggling against. You cannot define yourself on the anti. You know what I'm saying? And that has really been, I think, if you want to define me at any level, from Planet Planet, which I published in 1973, I started right there. You can see the question was, you cannot beat me talking bad about white people.
Okay.
I'm a professional at it. You can't beat me at that. I'm a poet. All right, you can't beat me. But the point is, that only goes so far.
That's right.
Actually, it only goes into the ear of the receiver and then out. It doesn't do any good today. All right? So the question is not who you are against, but what you are for. Now, once you begin to define what you are for, that requires one or two things. First, it requires accurate definitions. But secondly, it requires practice. See, once you define what you're about, then it seems to me at some point you are about it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're lying. Okay? And so therefore, as a poet, primarily a poet, when I began to try to define this, I said, where are the institutions? Where are the schools? Where are the cultural, the community centers that we need? And I did not see them. See, when we came out of the 60s, and the 60s was a bad decade. I mean, it was very sick. The 60s changed America for the best. The 60s, I mean, the Black Arts Movement, the Civil Rights Movement, the anti-war movement, the Black Empowerment Movement, I mean, the feminist and womanist movement, all these was critical in terms of the 60s, you see? I mean, even the gay and lesbian movement, all right, came out of that 60s. But we laid the groundwork. I mean, black people laid the groundwork. We just stood up and said, we're not taking it anymore. Come on, bring it on. Bring the dogs on, bring everybody. We're just not going to take it anymore. And as a result of that, we changed not only America for the best, we changed the world. Can I get an amen on that? Yes. So never apologize for the 60s. All these revisionist historians are trying to, bring, another look at, but we changed the world. Sankofa is here because of the 60s. All right? Understand that. Third World Press is here because of the 60s. I stand on the shoulders of El Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, Malcolm X. I stand on their shoulders. I stand on the shoulders of Paul Robeson. I stand on the shoulders of Margaret Burroughs and Charlie Burroughs, who founded the first black museum in the country, the DuSable Museum in Chicago. I stand on the shoulders of Barbara Ann Sizemore, one of the major educators in this country. I stand on the shoulders of Hort W. Fuller, one of the first editors of Negro Digest Black World magazine. I stand on the shoulders of Dudley Randall, the founder of Broadside Press. That's why Third World Press exists, all right? I stand on the shoulders of Gwendolyn Brooks, all right, who is my cultural mother. Gwendolyn Brooks, one of the finest writers the world ever produced, the first black to win a Pulitzer Prize, you see. But the first black who had gone to the heights, won the prize and everything, and said, okay, I'm leaving Harper Row, I'm going to Broadside Press. Okay? And once Broadside Press changed ownership, she came to Third World Press. We publish about 8 of her books now. So those are the shoulders I stand upon. And therefore, it is important that these definitions about who we are include all of that, you see, and much, much more. All right. So there's a problem to the popular culture definition. The culture and systems of white supremacy have rendered most black people politically, economically powerless, and often not credible even as something as fundamental as self-definition. Hence, the most recognizable and acceptable authorities on black people in the United States are non-blacks. By contrast, to be white is validated and celebrated within American culture each day in thousands of ways. The great poet Gwendolyn Brooks writes clearly about whiteness in her essay, Requiem for Revival. I'm going to quote Gwendolyn Brooks. And many of you haven't read this. These are from her essays. We all know Miss Brooks as a poet, but she writes, I give whites big credit. They have never tried to be anything but what they are. They have been and will be everlastingly proud, proud, proud to be white. It has never occurred to them that there has been or ever will be anything better than, nor 1/1,000th as good as being white. They have an overwhelming belief in that validity, not in their virtue, quote unquote, for they are shrewdly capable of a very cold view of that. But their validity they salute with an amazing innocence, yes, a genuine innocence, the brass of which befuddles most of the rest of us in the world, because we have allowed ourselves to be hypnotized by its shine. End quote. Now see, you understand my point. That you define from the affirmative. You cannot define from an affirmative unless you've studied the affirmative. And so it is not enough to say, I know what black is. I've been black all my life. Well, you know what? We didn't arrive in America first class TWA. We didn't walk on water to get here.
That's right.
And once we arrived here under the horrible situation of being enslaved as a people, and one of the reasons that enslavement worked was that the enslaved person had to be denurtured, had to be seasoned into something else. Or the anthropologists call acculturated. So we were acculturated as from Africans into Negroes. So how can a Negro be accurate about defining him or herself? That's why the denurturing process had to come into existence. That's what Sankofa is about. That's what we're about in Chicago. And that's what it's about literally hundreds and hundreds of African-centered institutions across this country that exist today in this country. All right? All right, who am I? And, I go and say, who am I? Try this. African Americans are the music of Louis Armstrong, James Brown, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday, Louis Franklin, and Erykah Badu. We adhere to the spiritual ideas of the Bible, Quran, Torah, and other holy texts as understood and interpreted by great black preachers and ourselves. Our literature includes the works of Toni Morrison, Melvin B. Tolson, Terry McMillan, Robert Hayden, Walter Mosley, and Octavia Butler. We're the dance of, you understand my point? It is complex. You just cannot define it just on a few terms of, I'm black because I've been black all my life. A call to men. You know, we live in a very difficult time. And so in our search for solutions, how will black men and boys prepare themselves for the 21st century and beyond? How do we define the new black man, the man of African ancestry and the African American man in today's politically charged climate? What approaches to life will be most effective for developing a new leadership among us who are visionary, talented, spiritually grounded, and incorruptible individuals? How do young black men institute a healing culture of fairness, love, and respect in personal relationships? What role does religion and spirituality play in our lives? And how will it prepare us for the challenges ahead? How do young black men prepare themselves for the new technologies and economies of the West? And finally, how do young black men celebrate themselves, maintain a holistic and healthy approach to life while living in a highly combative, complicated, racist, and confused world? These issues require deep reflection, discussion, and application of life-giving and life-saving tools for personal empowerment. And by this I mean life-giving strategies that are both practical and applicable to the lives of everyday people. And such strategies will encourage and direct them to be better than they and others expect them to become. And many of the ideas suggested here have come to me as a result of my own maturation in struggle. I say I'm a product of the movements of the 60s. That I just didn't appear, all right? Haley Greenwood just did not appear, that we come out of a movement, and this movement was critical in terms of our development. And all this requires work, serious study, and a profound commitment to quality relationships with all levels of human involvement. And what I'm saying essentially is that all black men must give the deepest thought and action to personal and professional relationships, especially those with women, children, and family. At all times, black men need to think and evaluate where they are as men, co-workers, lovers, husbands, fathers, and brothers in a healthy and developmental manner. And this requires a holistic community in order to do that. Now, I'm saying to you quite clearly that there are men among us. I came in and shakes the hands of some of the men here. There are men among us. In fact, these men are not known, and they live right next door to us. And these men, in many cases, are examples And many of them actually are intellectuals. They're the real public intellectuals, except they're just not public. All right? The point I'm trying to make is that all too often we think that the men who are among us are the men that we hear on television or radio or running around the country talking all this smack. The point is that if that was our only reality, we wouldn't be here tonight. I'm saying that your fathers, your grandfathers, your uncles, those unknown men, millions of them, are still in our community doing quality work. And we have to understand that.
That's right.
You have to give honor to those brothers and to the sisters who are with them, the partners and so forth, as we move in terms of struggle. Now, there are two groups of men that I'm very concerned about in terms of bringing back into struggle at a very serious level. They're doing the work on their own, but there are two groups of men I wanted to pay particular attention to and honor. One would be retired coaches. High school, college, university coaches. These brothers, in many cases, became surrogate fathers to many of the brothers they coached. You understand my point? That if these brothers at any point begin to organize any serious level, and just, I mean, that when a coach walks into the room, everybody shuts up. The brothers, they know who the boss is. It's the coach. All right? And then the second group of men would be non-commissioned officers. All right? I spent 2 years and 10 months in the military. And non-commissioned officers, most certainly in basic training, they made an impact on me. So I will never forget these bad boys. You see, I mean, they struck fear in my heart, all right? And I'm just saying, non-commissioned officers, I mean, they may need some more political training, most certainly in terms of where we're going. But they can handle these brothers out here. I know that. The men among us, you see. And what I try to write about in the men among us is begin to say, you know, how do we begin to really re-educate ourselves, especially with these young brothers. Have regular conversations with someone you trust, preferably an older man, father, grandfather, uncle, close male friend. Participate in activities that build self-esteem, such as improving upon your education, part-time school, evening, weekend, or a combination of both. If you have a high school education, consider, you know, one of the most democratic institutions in this country is basically community colleges. Most of us can't afford to go to, I went to community college. That's how I got my basic education. 2 years at Wilson Junior College. Same one that Gwendolyn Brooks went to in Chicago, all right? But it's a democratic institution, all right? And I give, you know, examples like that throughout the book. But move on, and this is a very delicate piece, but spirituality, practicing faith. If you've read Claiming Earth, I did a long essay on religion as culture, okay? And so I cut it a little bit and just try to approach it a different way. I'm saying essentially that weekly, black people, by the millions, fill the churches, the synagogues, the mosques, temples of worship. Actually, during the historical Million Man March, over 85% of the men attending were Christians and deep believers. Upon being interviewed after winning an event, most black athletes' initial response is to thank God for their performance. Most black actors and entertainers receiving Emmys or other awards keep God at the center of their acceptance comments. Throughout the black world, faith is at the epicenter of most black communities and cultures. There are many remarkable characteristics common to black people, but the one constant that seems to be universal is our undeniable and all-embracing acceptance of and belief in God.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, if that is indeed true, listen to this. To me, it doesn't matter if you're a Yoruba, if you're a Khan, if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, if you're Sikh, if you're Hindu, if you're Buddhist. There's two things that are very important regardless of what spiritual path you may follow. One, practice. All right? Which is a real problem. Am I correct?
Yeah.
All right, all right. Now, the second important fact is this. Think about this. If indeed your spiritual path is, quote unquote, the way, the answer, other than practice, the best way to test if it is indeed the way is to travel among other spiritual paths. You know what I'm saying? If you have the way, it seemed to me at some point you need to begin to dialogue, interact, be a part of community or other faith traditions. not only to learn those faith traditions, but to test your own faith tradition, or to enlarge your own faith tradition. All right? This is critical. It's so important. Because now we live in a time of, if you aren't this, then you are infidel. If you're not this, you're an unbeliever. That's naive at best and sick at worst. And so it becomes very important for us to understand that all faith traditions are equal. It doesn't matter which one you practice. But the key is if you are able to enlarge yourself by interacting with others in terms of their faith tradition. I write about this. And I go on, to say that finally, I believe that spiritual growth, spiritual commitment, and spiritual lifestyle are essential in forging peace and well-being among people in the world. However, if this requires our undying commitment to a faith tradition that necessitates our joining quote-unquote righteous campaigns against the so-called infidels or unbelievers, we will never rid ourselves of one of the major causes of death, poverty, and natural displacement, religious war.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So I move on. I read about money. Young people don't know how to deal with money. And one of the most dangerous aspects of money in a capitalist society is compounded interest. The first thing our children receive after high school, and most certainly after college, the first 2 years of college, is a credit card. And these credit cards are dangerous. They're dangerous, you see. And once you allow that compounded interest to occur on these credit cards, you're in deep trouble. And what I've learned in terms of my short tenure on this earth is, one, I only use one card. I'm not giving any advertisement, but the point is I restrict it to one card. All right? And you have to have a card in order to, I had to rent a card, okay? Yeah. You can't get a card unless you're going to put $1,000 cash down. You got to have a card, all right? And you have to have credit in this kind of society. I'm going to come back to that, but the point is I write about this question of money and how to begin very careful about it. And then I move to what I call laws of empowerment. I'm not going to go through this in depth, but I need to just kind of just like give you the 1 through 10 on laws of empowerment. 1, always know more about your own culture than others. Critical thinking about oneself, people, and culture and the world is imperative. Now you understand the cultural part, but understand the critical thinking part. Critical thinking is a learned activity. You know what? Just because I say it does not make it fact, does not make it true, does not make it right. So critical thinking is so important. And this is critical. I'm saying we don't need rah-rah groups. You know what I'm saying? We need people, when somebody stand up here and make some outlandish statement, to be challenged. All right? I don't care how good he looks. I don't care what kind of car he's driving. I don't care what kind of congregation that he's ahead of. If he's wrong, if she's wrong, then they need to be challenged. I mean, is that right? Yes. All right, that's it. All right. So, 2, efficient actions are more effective than loud words. We got orators in our community. You see what I'm saying? But when we get beyond the words, get beyond the pop-up preachers, the drive-by politicians, you know what I'm saying? Look at the actions. All right. Number 3, honesty is always the best policy. However, honesty must be practiced with care and selectivity because people can use your truthfulness against you, especially in struggle. The heart is always vulnerable in good people. Once your foes know your heart, they command to keep quote-unquote weakness over your actions. The Toltec people of southern Mexico say, quote, be impeccable with your words, end quote. It's a powerful concept. Your word is your bond, is the way that you are ultimately defined. A person is remembered if he or she speaks the truth. A liar always walks in fear of his or her lies catching up with him or her. Do not speak, listen to this, do not speak bad words about yourself or others. If negative words are to be spoken against others, they must be the truth and spoken only to affect a greater good in you and others. All right? So I'm against gossip. I'm totally against gossip. All right? Now you say, okay, it seems to be contradictory to say that honesty is always the best policy. So this is almost like situation ethics. When do you lie? when you don't lie. Now you come into the realm of adults. All right? Some of you in here work for Fortune 500 companies. I work for the government, which is a Fortune 500 company. Quiet as kept. All right? Is that correct? All right. Now, some of you may be the only one in your section or in your group. Some of you take great pleasure in that. Saying, I'm the only one, you know, just gonna stay that way. Now, what I'm calling for would be what I call guerrilla warriors. All right? You may, you know, tie down, go into work every day, but you're the warrior. You're the guerrilla warrior, all right? And so what happens, what guerrilla warriors do, they work many different, I mean, number one, they're using the full brain, not just 25% of the brain, all right? And what they're trying to work on is how can I get more people in here that look like me in here? That's number one. Number two, if these people are doing